However, I really feel like for the betterment of society, it's not good to be pressuring our kids into these long-term obsessions almost. And then it gets to the point where, and I've seen this with friends of mine who are huge sports people in high school and then college, and like you go so hard and you're playing so hard for your entire life, and then you graduate from college and you're like, now what?
Corey, it is so hard to find quality bread these days. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. We learned so much when we did that whole recording on grains. We learned what bread should be and what it shouldn't be. And it's definitely hard to find bread made the right way. But we have found Serenity Farm Bread, which is a bread company doing things the right way. They are making old world sourdough bread, and they are baking it in a wood-fired brick oven.
Their loaves are properly prepared, free of seed oils, no gums, no conditioners, no weird, funky ingredients. And Corey and I especially enjoyed the sourdough and focaccia loaves.
Go to serenityfarmbread.com and use the code MAM10, MAM10, for 10% off. They ship all over the U.S. Enjoy a delicious slice of focaccia bread for us.
Welcome to Modern Ancestral Mamas. We are Corey and Christine, two millennial moms on a mission to bring ancestral wisdom to modern motherhood. And we are continuing our series on nourishing young athletes. And today's guest has already been on our show all the way back on episode number 8. And so we'll link it in the show notes. But we wanted to invite her back on because as a mom of 3 kids, they're all older now, she knows the ins and outs of feeding young athletes nourishing foods. Before we get started, we just want to remind you guys to please rate and review and comment. Leave a comment on our show. We have gotten some of the best comments recently. I mean, I almost cried. I sent a few to Corey. One of them, I had no idea what it was. It was about an SNL skit. Kind of laughed at that. But we really appreciate everything that you guys do to support our show by commenting and reviewing. Okay, without further... What?
I was going to say, you have to say what her name is. You didn't even say her name.
I'm going to say it right now. Okay, you got to let me talk, dude.
No.
Please welcome Christina Schindler.
Thank you, Christine and Corey, for having me on again. I had no idea I was number 8 in your lives. That makes me feel very special.
You should be
way back.
Special,
yes, way back in the day. Well, I have to tell you both. So we have a restaurant, the Modern Stone Age Kitchen, that you both have been to with your families in Maryland and Chestertown. And on this Friday night, which is so serendipitous, we had a couple. They were sitting on the patio. They were the sweetest thing. She was very pregnant with number 3, and they clearly were having a date night, and they ordered all the things, like the Caesar salad, the wings. They had 2 pizzas. Like, we thought more people were coming. And no, it was just the 2 of them. Like, they were truly enjoying themselves. And I went up and was chatting with them, and they said, oh, they were having a date night. And the reason they came down from New Jersey, it was about almost a 2-hour drive, is because they had heard Bill on your podcast. And they had heard, and it resonated with them, and they wanted to take the drive. So not only did they take the drive, which is super cool, this was their date night anniversary night. They drove down, and that's why they were enjoying absolutely everything. Like, he had a DD, so he had a Manhattan, and he had an espresso martini, and Bill's made the vermouth for the Manhattan, and it's all organic alcohol and everything. So they were living it up. And thank you. So just know that our little worlds are connecting in many, many ways. So thank you for the work that you do.
That gives me so many fuzzies.
Right? So with the comments, there's another new one for you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Bill's episode on our grain series, I have heard multiple times from people, is their absolute episode. Is their absolute favorite episode on grains, because he just did such a good job of synthesizing everything that the other people had said.
Without even knowing.
Yeah, he didn't even know. And just presenting it in a very balanced and cohesive way. It was fantastic.
Good.
So
he's a keeper.
Yep, you are one lucky lady for sure. I know that he would say the same about you. So
yeah. Which, if anybody is interested, you guys shared the sweetest story about how you met back on our other episode. So you guys can go all the way back there and learn about how Christina and Bill met and fell in love, and it was really sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. So like Christine said, this is going to get so confusing with Christina and Christine. So everybody forgive me if I'm fumbling over here. We're going to have all 3 C names.
I know.
So Christine said that we are doing this whole series on nourishing the young athlete, right? So our culture is so focused on kids playing sports. You know, you as a mom, you're always getting that question, oh, well, what sports do your kids do? And so let's roundtable. Okay, we'll roundtable this opening question, and we're going to do, what was your main sport when you were growing up? And do you still enjoy it? Like, do you follow it professionally, or do you play it on the weekends or whatever? So who wants to go first?
I'll take it.
Great.
So I played field hockey and loved field hockey. I did indoor and outdoor throughout. I coached when I was in high school, like the littler rec team, and would do that whole spiel. And that was really fun. And that is actually, I could say, my biggest regret in my life is that I tore my knee my senior year and I didn't rehab it to play in college. And I still like that. I wish I did the grind and got back in, on the field. So I didn't play in college, even though I was being recruited, but then I blew out my knee. But I did coach my oldest daughter, Brianna. So it was a way of still staying relevant and staying in it. And I have to say the parents' game versus the daughters was always the best game ever of the entire year. So it was my way of getting back out there. But that was my way of still being a part of it. And I love to watch it. And if you don't know, and your audience doesn't know, men's field hockey is absolutely huge across the world, except in the US. And that is so much fun to watch. When we lived abroad in Ireland for a year, and at the kids' high school, and believe it or not, they actually went to the school. It was called The High School in Ireland. I can't make that up. It wasn't like a funny name, but it was literally called The High School. They had for each grade level 2 female hockey teams for each grade and 2 male field hockey teams.
Whoa.
Yeah, totally different. But I got to, live my hockey dream over there a little bit too. So that'd be me, field hockey.
Wow. I don't know anything about field hockey or hockey in general now that I think about it. Is it essentially the exact same? It's just on a field with a puck?
With a ball, not a puck.
A ball?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a rounded stick at the end, like a little U. It's a fast game. It's a fun.
Okay.
And you play it on turf.
Oh, on turf.
But I'm old, so we played it on grass. We didn't have turf then. But
okay.
Turf is really fast.
Yeah. Different type of stick than lacrosse, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Wow.
I think it's a Northeast thing too.
Yeah. That's like a preppy sport.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe because you need more than just a ball. You need a stick too, maybe.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I think of lacrosse as a super preppy sport.
Yeah. Lacrosse and field hockey, I feel like, are like the upper echelon type sports. Like those are the ones that you're playing in if you go to like a boarding school or something. I don't know.
Okay. I was at no boarding school.
All right, Christine, you go.
Me? Okay. All right. Well, I feel like my listeners have heard this a million times already at this point.
I still find it so interesting.
Okay.
Like, nobody does this sport. It's so cool.
You Fen, what do you do?
I was a synchronized swimmer.
No.
Right?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Now it's known as artistic swimming. It is no longer called synchronized swimming.
And do you still do it?
No. I still swim, but I'm not an artistic swimmer anymore. Yeah. I did it for a while. I did do it professionally for some time as well. And I swore off the pool maybe, I don't know, for about 10 years. And I refused to get in a pool. And then literally a year ago, I jumped back in the pool and found some other workout class that felt fun and kind of close. Not close to synchro, but doing some of the same movements. Mm-hmm. And so I've been back in the pool since then.
Very good. How long can you hold your breath for? That always amazes me.
Who knows?
Really?
I don't know. Back in my prime, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half or longer. You really don't know.
That's a long time.
That's a very long time.
You're just underwater because you have to be underwater. And if you break, which is what you call when you come up to breathe, you get screamed at. So
Oh, fun.
you stay under.
Sounds really like encouraging and wonderful environment.
Yeah, and then your other 7 teammates will hate you forever because,
No pressure.
yeah, you came up to breathe. So no, breathing's not allowed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, count me out on that one. That's too scary.
I will say this past summer, for the first time, I enrolled my 2 younger kids in swim team, just like your average little, local swim team. And it brought back so many memories for me. It was like I was at the pool every morning from 8 to 8:45 with them. And my daughter, no surprise, happens to be very good at it. She's really fast and she's just a natural in the water. And it was really cool to see her swim because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Here I am back at a pool. But she loved it. She absolutely loved it. And my 4-year-old was the youngest at the pool. And he still has to swim the full lap.
Wow.
And this is my last story, and then you have to go, Corey, because I'm cracking up. I love this. He swam one swim meet. There were swim meets every week, and he swam one. And he kept telling us leading up to the swim meet, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it my way. And we're like, okay, whatever your way is. You just have to get from one end of the pool to the other. He cannonballs off of the block into the water, swims maybe half the way, and then starts spy hopping the other half of the way. He's just bouncing. He got 5th place, 6th place, but he felt like he won. I mean, He was beaming. It was the cutest thing ever.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, that's the end.
Okay, I'll go really quick. I didn't really play sports when I was growing up. I did all the artistic things. So I did dancing and theater and all that stuff. I don't really follow it much anymore. I would love to go see a really beautiful production. But I'm get really it's one of those things when really good, whatever it is that you're super passionate about or know a lot about, when you see something that's not super high caliber, or you eat something that's not super high caliber, and you get really kind of snobby about it to the point where it's not even enjoyable. Right. So we took our kids to see the Nutcracker last Christmas, and they loved it. And there was some really nice aspects of it, and some of it I was just sitting there going oh my gosh, because it's just a community, dance company, and it was little children. I don't know. I'm not I'm trying not to be super snobby and rude, but I get in my brain, I'm okay.
Oh yeah, totally.
So
I mean, I only follow the U.S. Olympic artistic swimming team.
Right.
I don't follow any other swimming teams. I only follow them. They are fantastic. Yeah, I love watching it. I can spend hours watching it.
All right. So, Christina, how about you give us a tiny bit of background on your what sports your kids did, all of that.
Yeah,
whatever
how old
you
are
feel
they?
is. Oh yeah, how old they are now.
Now, yeah.
Yes. So we have 3 children, Bill and I. Our oldest, Brianna, is 21. She is a 4th year at UVA. Billy, our middle, and our only son, he's 19, and he is a sophomore at Washington College, where he plays soccer and lacrosse. So he's a dual college athlete.
Wow.
So our next 4 years are completely planned out for us with his matches. And then Alyssa, our youngest, is 17, and she's going into her senior year of high school. So we're at the end kind of the athletic, in a way, season for our kids, just being on the other side of it with them almost all in college, but we have one in college. So we've started from Pee Wee soccer back in the day all the way up. So, reflecting back on where the kids were, I know I pushed field hockey on Brianna because I played field hockey and I loved it. And I wanted to coach and I didn't want to give it up. So guess who started field hockey as soon as they could have a stick in their hand? And I coached her all the way through to high school. Yes, I am that mother, and I did that. I also played basketball. So it was like, when it was that time, let's play basketball. And I hate the pool. Sorry, Christine. I hate swimming. I don't like to hold my breath. I don't like to get water in my nose, like all the things. I think I must have had a traumatic experience as a child. It was one of those,
Sounds
like, you
like
go
it.
to day camp and they make you take swim lessons in the morning. And every day I like had swimmer's ear, and I couldn't do the swim lesson, but I miraculously was able to do the free swim in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I can totally remember that. So, you know, with your winter sport choices, well, you're not going to be on the swim team because that's miserable. Sorry.
Yeah.
So let's play basketball. And I did coach her for that in a bit. And then, you know, other coaches and things. And those were the two main ones. Softball, like for us as a girl in the spring, track wasn't really an option at her age. And I know there's more offerings now, figuring it's like 10, 15 years later. But it was primarily softball. And I think they did like a spring soccer, but she didn't do anything in the spring. That was kind of the Girl Scout era time. But there was always sports, and she played consistently through high school, and she was the captain of her field hockey team and those types of things. So she played field hockey all the way through, travel, indoor and outdoor. Billy started with soccer at 3. As like, I think that's the youngest one you can start with, right? All they got to do is kick a ball.
Yeah.
So he was out there and he loved it. And he has literally stuck with it now. I'll come back to that one, but he's playing in college, which is great. So he's just a natural athlete. It doesn't matter what the kid picks up. It just clicks for him. And then he played, we tried one season of T-ball, and that was painful. And it was just too slow. Like, he was so bored, and it was so slow. And it's the one time we always have said, once you make a commitment to a team, you have to stick with it. But T-ball was our exception because he was miserable. And there was a lot of kids on the team. So it's like, okay, if you're not on the team, at least you give somebody else a shot too, who really is enjoying this. So we maybe let him, I don't use the Q word. He did not quit. He withdrew from the program because it was overcrowded. We're going to say that. And he was soccer year round all the time.
Yeah.
Ate and breathed soccer. We travel. He brings a soccer ball deflated, and then he would bring a pump. I mean, literally around the world, the kid traveled with a soccer ball everywhere. And he played in Brazil, middle school, all the things. And I come back to this, but about burnout kind of in high school. So we can come back to that one in a bit. And then Alyssa, she's just not our athletic child. And we tried them all because it's the other two played. So what do you want to play? It's just the natural, right? Do you want to play soccer? Sure, I'll try soccer. She was more interested in the dandelions that were growing out there on the field than, you know, it was fine. It was good camaraderie and meeting friends and the social aspect. And we tried fine motor, not her thing per se. So I didn't try the field hockey stick because I knew that was just not going to be necessarily a successful one. But we did the soccer, we did the horseback riding, we did all the things, basketball, all the things. And it just wasn't for her. But again, she found the arts. So she likes dance and she likes acting and that type of thing. So she's gone in that direction. And you got to find your niche. So it is funny, though, even just saying it out loud, reflecting back as a parent, definitely drove our kids to sports. Oh, I didn't say Billy wrestled. Bill was a Division I wrestler at Ohio State. So it was only natural that Billy has to wrestle. So Billy was out there at 5, I think was when he could wrestle, and Bill was coaching him. And he made it to states, and he did quite well. And then he's like, I don't like this. And I give my husband a lot of credit because it would have been, I would say easy to force him, but it would to convince him that this is wonderful and maybe you want to pursue it. But he didn't have pressure for it. And he went back out freshman year of high school, and he just didn't enjoy it. He's like, I don't like getting beat up. And he was decent. I mean, he could hold his own. He's like, I don't like this. It's like, okay, your father may have, wrestled on a national championship team, Ohio State Division I back in the 90s, but you don't need to wrestle. But it is very funny when people see Bill's ears. They either ask if he's an MMA or he wrestled. Like, does he fight or whatever? And then, so your son must wrestle. And it's like, no, our son plays soccer and lacrosse. He doesn't wrestle, which is good. But it is, I think in the beginning, you kind of default to what you did as a child and what you know and what you then expose them to.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Just at least to some degree. It's funny you were saying that your younger daughter would pick daisies. My sister literally She was on a softball team when she was young because, my parents were like, we're going to try this and we're going to try this because that's what you do, right?
Right. That's what you do.
And so my dad puts her on this softball team, but he tells the coach, like, listen, she's going to play, but please put her in the outfield. And the coach was like, what do you mean? Like, we want the kids to like have, experience playing all of the bases. And he goes, no. She needs to be in the far outfield, all the way out, because she's going to sit back there and pick daisies. And I don't want her to get hit by the ball because she's going to do it. Even if she's on first base, she's going to pick the daisies. So
we know our kids, right?
Let her run the bases, but also let her pick the daisies.
I love it.
Not get hit by the ball.
That's so cute. I always said as a kid growing up, because I never played any sports with balls, that I did not like sports with balls. I don't know if you guys have seen Clueless.
Obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
Duh.
Don't like anything flying at my face.
Perfect.
All right.
So when your kids were little, you guys were already kind of shifting the way you were eating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you ever notice a difference between what your kids were eating and what other kids were eating?
Oh, yes.
On the teams?
Yes. So, I mean, I think the big thing is you would have the halftime snack, which for me growing up was always
halftime.
The oranges. Oh, do you have quarter
You
snacks?
need it at halftime?
Oh, we have you guys don't have, we have halftime snacks because you need to refuel after maybe running for 15 minutes on the field.
No, it was just the end of the game.
Oh,
for
no,
us.
no, halftime snacks.
Okay.
So at least we were able to get halftime fruit. So, parents would sign up for things and use, your sign up genius or whatever it was, and asking for orange slices, to make the big smile mouth type things. Or people would do like fruit bags with like grapes and things like that. So that was always great. But then there was an after game snack. Yeah. And for some reason, I don't know why this needed to come packaged in a plastic container, and it was carbs and it was covered in sugar and icing. Like, I don't know why after an athletic performance of some sort, we needed to carb our kids up. And it was so frustrating. So when I coached, that it was a rule that there was no after game snacks like that. It was always halftime oranges and then an after game healthy snack. And, who liked to do, people would get creative, right? I know I'm the mom who saw all the things on Pinterest and was like, I want to make these for my kids someday. So who would make the caterpillar out of the grapes and like put it on a skewer? That's cool. Those types of things. So parents would sign up for that. And then of course it's, what are they drinking? And my rule was only water during the game. And then after the game, what parents wanted, the Gatorade or whatever it was. I don't think anybody actually realized what they were feeding their kids with all the food coloring. Either it was just, this is the healthy thing to have when you play sports. You drink a Gatorade to refuel after your workout. I mean, talk about great marketing that they had. So that was something that as I was coaching, that's what we tried to do. But on the other teams, oh my, just at the end. And the kids knew, like, there would be options. I feel like there were more peanut-free options than healthy options, if that makes sense. In terms of the bag of whatever that was being given out, we were more concerned about who has a peanut allergy than who wants a high-protein snack after they, compete in a soccer game or a field hockey game or whatever it happened to be. So it was the awkward, and I know you two understand this completely, and I still get it from our kids, as they're almost all adults. They will all be officially adults in September. So Alyssa's 17, she'll be 18 in September. They'll have that sheepish grin of wanting to be included and want to take something, but then they know they shouldn't and or can't eat it. And they'll just sheepishly look like, can I just have a bite? And then you feel like a crappy parent because it should be a fun moment, whether they won, lost, whatever the outcome of the game was. And it ends up being about food. And it really can suck the life out of a really potentially fun moment or a really sad one too. You know what I mean? Because the other thing is, once you lose, you don't want to like drown your sorrows in a Twinkie, literally. And sometimes I feel like that had happened. I definitely saw a shift from rec to travel, because parents who have made a commitment to travel, let's be honest, it's a financial and a time commitment.
Yeah.
So
huge.
we did We traveled with Brianna for field hockey. Like she went to the US field hockey tournament in like Virginia Beach kind of thing. So like those things we traveled. And then Billy, we traveled a bunch with soccer and we traveled to practice. So I never thought I would be that parent, but we live in you ladies have been to where we are. It's a small country area. So to get to that competitive level, you need to branch out a little bit to get that level of competition. So we would drive, for your listeners who know the Eastern Shore area, over the Bay Bridge, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which is a 4-mile bridge. It's a huge one, to Annapolis. So that was a 45+ minute drive dependent on traffic. And we would do that 3 times a week. And especially when he was older, before he could drive, he had the late night sessions. So it would be an 8:30 to 10 o'clock training, meaning we're not getting home till 11 and then rolling in the next day to schoolwork and all the things. Yeah, it's funny when you think back on it, like, what were we doing? Why was it? But you know what? He's playing in college now. Like, it's all the things work out. But when we were at that level of training and consistency and practice, you could talk about health and nutrition. You could talk about diet. The coaches set expectations. And there was that level of responsibility. And you weren't getting the prepackaged things afterwards. And now at the college level, that's a whole different ballgame completely in terms of nutrition. I mean, I was out with him this morning. We both had our protein shakes. And then he ate his chicken breasts and was off the door to lift and then go train and then come to work here. So that is one thing about sports. It keeps you active and it keeps you focused. Good or bad?
I find it really interesting to me that especially in the younger kids, there's this emphasis on the carb thing, like, and the younger kids, it's not even like they're expending that much energy. Let's be honest. I will say the pool is a totally different thing. I mean,
they expend energy just being children though.
They do. I mean, fine.
More than adults. They expend more energy than adults just by being alive. They do, because they're like...
Yeah, no, you're right. I guess as an adult, you see them and they're just like, little clouds around a ball and they just walk from one, end of the field to the other. And it's not even a full field, obviously. And you're like, oh, okay. And now you need a donut? I don't think so, but...
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, wait, I want to ask, because you said something about like when they're, younger, they're playing rec or whatever, and your kids would have this like look of, please let me, eat a Dorito or whatever. Just one from the bag, just one. So what was y'all's policy, your family policy, and how did you handle that? Like, were there ever times where like, yeah, okay, we'll just have, a bag of chips? Or was it always like a hard no and then you had to replace it with something? Or I don't know. What did you guys do?
So it wasn't a hard no, because I think there's just, as much as there's the athletic piece to sports, there's the social piece to sports. And I feel like already our family comes with some weight on our shoulders, because it's like, oh, the Schindlers are here. We can't bring that stuff out. Like, oh, the Schindlers are here. Maybe we shouldn't have this. So that is just what that is right now for us as a family. But it was, don't eat the whole bag. Just have one, enjoy. Like, and then we would talk about it too. Like, did you like it? You know what I mean? Was it good? Was it worth it? And then it's kind of that conversation. And I don't mean worth it like were the calories worth it, but especially we could see with Alyssa, our youngest, food had a immediate impact on her behavior. Immediate. Like 0 to, and not in the right direction that we wanted it to go in. And she would realize it. And it got to the point though, which was good because we were so clean at home, as soon as you kind of went in another direction and you had that food in your body, you knew what it felt like and you knew what it did to you. So that was helpful. But I mean, regardless of sports, let's be honest, it's birthday parties, it's the class parties, it's everywhere. So it's not just coming off the sports field, but it's teaching them or helping them learn how to make decisions and also how to be socially acceptable about it. Because I'm going to be very honest with you too. You know Bill and I very well. I know we are ostracized socially because of how we eat. And I don't want that for my kids. So it's how can we teach them how to be grateful and thankful and taste, but also be able to stick to their values and morals. And it's a lot easier when you're able to say, I have an allergy, because it's, oh, this is medically going to hurt you. So I will be honest, we told our kids to say that sometimes. I'm allergic. because then nobody questions it, right? Nobody's like, oh, you don't want my Twinkie. It's no, you can't have it because, and I am sorry to brand Twinkie right now, but, or the Oreos, right? Or with the sleeve of whatever it is. It's, oh, you can't have it because you can't have carbs because you're allergic to gluten. Okay. And all of a sudden that's okay, as opposed to, I just don't, that's not my choice, or I don't want the extra additives and all the types of things. And you can't expect a 6-year-old per se to say those types of things. So we always have tried to come up with a balance. And that's really what we do in the restaurant here at the Modern Stone Age Kitchen. It's what we're trying to do. It's like, if you're going to eat a sweet, and that's what we do here, make it in the healthiest way possible. So we ferment our grains. It's all sourdough. We don't use refined sugars. So can you go downstairs right now and get a chocolate croissant? Yes, you can. But it's sourdough. It's high quality butter. You're going to get all that good fat, and you're getting the best quality chocolate that we can source here. So that is kind of our stance on some of the things. And it worked with the kids. And then finally, I feel like there were so many others as they got older who realized, like, this is not what I want to eat. This is not what I want to put into my body. And it just wasn't an option at the games. You know, it changed.
Yeah, actually, that was what I was the most curious about, is because you were able to start when they were relatively younger, as they got older, and as they were, you know, now they're young adults essentially, do they follow the way you guys are eating? And do they actually see a difference in themselves and in their body and how they feel? Do they value it and prioritize it?
Yes. And what is very interesting, as soon as they get a license, I mean, it's one thing prior to that, you control what comes into the house, right? So you put it in the grocery cart, you bring it into your house. That's the decision that you've made for what your family can eat. Now, when they go to a friend's house, it changes. Now, I'll tell you, you guys know the ingredient household, right? Like that whole TikTok trend. Well, we're clearly an ingredient household. Very much so. So we wouldn't have kids over our house at the end of the day after school for snacks. You don't come to the Schindlers for snacks, but you come to the Schindlers for wood-fired, house-made sourdough pizza with homemade cheese on Friday night. So then we would have all the kids over, you know, for those types of things. So I think the kids went to friends' houses for the snacks, not the ingredients that were in our own house. And then when they could drive, I know specifically for Billy, it was a ticket to freedom. And I would find some wrappers in his car. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, we have raised you better than this.
So how did you navigate that as a parent? You know, for any other listener out there who might be in a similar situation.
Well, one thing is, it wasn't our money buying it. That was a big one. Yeah. Like, I'm not giving you any money to go and buy. Like, again, it's the catch of, like, what was he fueling for sports? And after, I hate to say this, there's a McDonald's that's right by the high school. And do you all use Life 360 yet?
No, what is that?
Oh, Life 360 is a wonderful thing. The kids actually stalk us on it, but some people might say it's just too voyeurism, but it's where people are. So, yeah. So it's like,
find
circles.
Your iPhone.
Find your iPhone, but it gives you driving information. It gives speed. It gives hard braking. It gives phone usage. Oh. Very, very good.
So like when your kids get phones, this is what we need to have for our kids.
And then what you could do is you could put circles. So I'm going to hold my phone up right now. So here's my Life 360, and that's our fam. So I can see that Bill and I are here at the Food Lab. I just got a text at the alert that says Brianna arrived to the YMCA, and she's at the YMCA because Alyssa is there working at Stay and Play, and then they're going to work out. I can see where everybody is, and I can see how long it takes to drive, like all the things. Well, I may have set up a circle for McDonald's. So I may have known when my son went, and I was
so like every time he's at McDonald's, you get a notification.
It would say.
Oh, interesting.
Some people might think this is a little much. I don't need comments on it. People in the things, please, your community. As much as it was when he's going to his girlfriend's house. So, okay, just our rule on driving, period. And I think this is an important one. And this has really helped us. And this is not necessarily about food, but this is about raising kids and driving. Our rule about when you have to be home for a curfew is you have to leave by a certain time. It's not you have to be home. Because if you have to be home by midnight and you leave late, then you're speeding. So Life 360 has helped us on that, because then I know you left when you said, if we agreed that you need to leave at 12, not be home at 12, they're two totally separate things. And I know you're going to drive safer. So we use it that way. The kids use it on us and stalk us. because they'll see when we're still at work. So then they know what they need to clean up or when they need to get their chores done because they're like, okay, mom and dad will be home in 15 minutes. They just left. I got the notification. Mom and dad left work. Like, hurry, go. It's actually quite funny. But getting back to the food thing, I found out he was at McDonald's. And you know what's crazy? He was trying to make the healthiest decision he could when he was hanging out with his friends. And I value that. And we talked about it. Okay, so if your friends are going to McDonald's, what can you order? And he would order a hamburger with no bun, and he would eat the meat of the burger. Is it ideal? No. But if that's the social situation that his friends were going to, and that's what they had access to, he was trying to make the best of a social situation. Talking about McDonald's again, we lived abroad for a year. When the kids were going into 4th, 6th, and 8th. But by mistake, Billy and Brianna skipped a grade when we went abroad, so they really went into 7th and 9th. That's another story. But Alyssa was going into 4th grade, and she was playing something called camogie, which is a kind of like lacrosse meets field hockey in the air. Super cool sport. And I'd like to chat about, it's like you hit the ball. Oh yeah, you hit it like tennis. It's like basket. It's a little bit of everything. And her school team made it to the championship. So Alyssa gets to the championship with her school team in this camogie at Crow Park, and it was amazing. And it was a heartbreaker. They lost at the end. You know, she didn't step on the field. It was, of course, fine. And these girls sobbing. They were so upset. And most of these girls are sobbing because they realize as Irish women that they were on this field that was sacred and they lost in the championship. They're 10 people, okay? But still sobbing. Alyssa's sobbing. And we're like, what the heck, girl? Like, you're an American, you're playing, you didn't play. Like, I know you love all your friends, but like, really take it down a notch. Because it was kind of that like social crying that just happens when one person cries, they all cry. Oh no, guess what it was about? They were going to McDonald's after the loss. And she was crying because she knew she wouldn't be able to go to McDonald's.
Oh.
And can you, like, our hearts just broke because we had, I guess, ingrained it so much that no, our family does not go there. No, our family does not eat that food. And I was like, honey, of course you're going. Like, this is with your team. This is about your team. You're going and we will be there with you. And when we walked in, oh my God, her face was like, what can I order? And, you know, she had the Happy Meal with her friends and like did the whole 9 yards. So there has to be a balance too. We clearly had caused some significant stress on our 10-year-old daughter about our view of McDonald's and that we don't eat there. There's a time and a place. And we still talk about that. And she still, remember that time I had McDonald's? Yes, honey, we remember that time. So trying to strike that balance is so difficult. And especially when they can drive and they have their own money and their debit card and that type of thing. So one of our things, as I said earlier, is our funds do not fund those types of things. And I think right now for our kids, like fast food eating out is Chipotle and they'll get a burrito bowl. It's Chick-fil-A and they'll do grilled chicken.
If figuring out what to feed your family feels exactly like a never-ending to-do list, I get it. That is exactly why I created these 3 cookbooks just for you. 1 Chicken, 5 Meals shows you how to stretch a single bird into a week of nourishing, no-stress dinners. Nourishing Junk Food lets you create your favorites with using real food ingredients, no food dyes, no seed oils, and no other junk, just the flavors that you love. And in betweens, that's the secret weapon for snack time, lunch boxes, and all those what do I even feed them right now moments. All 3 are kid-friendly, mama-approved, and made for real life. Get your copies today and turn your kitchen into a place that you actually enjoy. Go to fornutrientsake.com and use the code MAM15 for 15% off your order. All right, our second code that we're going to share with you is from Seatopia. The code that they have given us is Ancestral Mama, and that's going to get you 10% off. They sell sushi grade and snap frozen fish. So it's frozen at the peak of freshness, and it's all clean, certified clean seafood that is mercury safe and microplastic tested. Check out their website, seatopia.com. Is that right?
It's seatopiafish.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that completely answered your question, but I feel like if I go back to our son, Billy, he enjoyed his license and tested the boundaries with food and his friends. And he saw it in his shape. as well, even though he was so athletic, because he was chiseled before his license. Then he got his license, and maybe not a little as much. But again, now he can drop that like in a day. It's crazy. Like, having the metabolism of a 19-year-old male, and he'll work out 3 hours before 11 o'clock. Actually, even before that. So
wait, I just wanted to add, because we always talk we had Sally on, and I still think this is one of the best rules, which is Sally Fallon.
Okay.
Yeah. That she always had all of her kids had to have dinner at the house. Didn't matter what they did afterwards, but they had to eat dinner at the house. And then if afterwards they wanted to go out with their friends, and after that they're eating junk, but at least they had one solid meal at the house together as a family, and then they were off. And I've not forgotten that clearly. I think I've repeated it like 5 times.
I like that. And I guess for us as a family, we end always with dinner. They don't go out kind of after dinner. We just eat later, but we always have dinner. So like last night, we have a big event today for the governor, and we were up here cooking till about 9 o'clock, and we didn't get home, but Billy was home cooking, and he cooked up chicken breasts for us and some potatoes with garlic. We didn't sit down to eat till 10, but we sat down as a family. Now, I don't agree with that. And we didn't have great sleep because we ate so late and all the things. But for us as a family, like that is our spiritual place, is sitting around our kitchen table and having a meal and cooking it. And I think also what has changed for us as a family with what a meal looks like. For me growing up, my mother was an amazing cook and cooked a full dinner every night, 3 meals a day, that type of thing. And it was always the veg, the meat, the starch, everything, and a dessert, to be quite honest, even during the week. That's how she was raised. That's what she cooked. And that's how we started in the beginning with the kids, not necessarily dessert, but having the protein and the veg and the carb and everything. And now we realize, there's nothing wrong with some ground beef and some cheese thrown in and a little everything salt, and we could call that a meal. So for us to be able to eat healthy, our view of what a healthy meal is and how many elements it needs to have has totally changed. Because if you said that to me, we'll be married 25 years next week. If you said that was a meal, ground beef and cheese was our dinner, I'd be like, well, where's everything else? Like, where's the salad and where's the things? And that you're not giving the kids, but it's okay. Like that's okay for us. And sometimes that is actually the easiest dinner by far when everybody's coming in a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to talk about like making sure our kids are fueled before games and after games. I went on a walk the other day, and when we're recording this is July. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to go on a walk at like 3:30 in the afternoon.
In Georgia.
And it was 95 degrees. Okay. So I go on this walk. It was like an hour and a half long walk. And as I'm getting back to my house, I'm like walking up the dirt road to my house. I'm like, dang, I could really go for a Coke right now. Like the last time I've wanted a Coke, I could not even tell you. Like I don't have them at my house. And I was like, I should have bought Cokes, like this is such a crazy thing. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. It's like dinner time. And I've just been walking in this crazy heat for an hour and a half. I am sure my body is just really hungry, And like the thing that came to mind was a Coke, because that would obviously have a lot of sugar and it would give you a lot of energy really quickly. And I am certain kids have that, your kids come in from swimming and they're like, I want a popsicle. Can I have a cookie? Can I have popcorn? Like give me the fastest form of energy possible. Something that is going to, and they're not going to be able to explain that to you, but like, that's what they're doing,
Yeah,
sure.
So can we talk about that fueling before the game and then fueling after, or practice or whatever? Because a lot of times kids are having practice that are like 3 hours long, which is insane. So yeah, let's talk about that. We'll kind of leave the like elementary. I mean, if you want to, you can touch on that sort of elementary age, but that's like we were saying, it's kind of light. It's like light sports,
right.
But more of the travel teams, the middle school, the high school, where they're like hardcore in it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've noticed with all the kids is it depends on what they were doing in the session for training, because they would get cramps often if they ate beforehand. Like they would prefer sometimes to go fasted if it was a morning one, right? Because they would get cramps. I always remember that with swimming. It's probably PTSD coming back. Maybe that's why I
you
had
can
a
get
cramp.
cramps with swimming.
Right. Like, wasn't that a thing? You're not allowed to swim an hour after eating. Is that like
I'm
an
sure
old wives' tale,
Mythbusters
right?
busted
Because
that.
you're going to get a cramp and drown.
I've ever followed that, but
Okay.
It's okay. Mythbusters busted it. It's
There we
not
go.
a thing.
Yeah.
So when they did want to eat, it was usually eggs with like sourdough pancakes or sourdough waffle, something like that. Yogurt was always a big one in our house because that was easy and you could kind of take it in the car if you really needed to. You know what I mean? For those as you're late to practice, because let's be honest.
Yeah.
For those kids who are not getting out of bed.
Yeah. I mean, what's also easy to eat as you're getting in the car that you might not have been able to sit down and actually eat as you're shuffling everyone around. That's always been a big thing. And I don't think, right or wrong, looking back, fueling with liquids before practice was never a thing. It was more, and even now, Billy doesn't drink other than a protein shake in the morning. Like he just got his 25 grams of protein in before he went to the gym. It's more the after for like a dehydration packet in a water and that type of thing. But we never really did it beforehand. I don't know what you all see with your kiddos.
What's a dehydration packet?
Do you use any of the elements, or Mike Mutzel has a brand those dehydration that'll have the magnesium and the Relights? Yeah.
Relight. Okay. Yeah.
Relight, all those types of things.
Okay.
So we do a lot of those. And actually we sell them here in the shop. People really like those a lot.
Yeah.
And dilute them as opposed to, I guess you could say, a healthier alternative like a Gatorade, right? That type of thing.
Yeah.
Where you're getting the extra nutrients.
On the teams, would other teammates notice that, I don't know, they're not drinking a Gatorade or a Powerade, they're drinking maybe water with salt, or like you said, an LMNT or a Relight?
Yes, and I think one of the biggest telltale signs is at the end, the trash that's left by the two teams. You can tell exactly. Because think about it. If you're drinking like a Relight or something, it's in a packet and it's going in your water bottle and you're taking it with you, as opposed to a soda. Like just all the trash is there as well too. And it sets a big message and a stage for, I think, the values of the team. And truly, it comes from the coach on a lot of those things. It really does. They set the tone. So I know Billy's soccer coach right now, he's playing in college. Couple things with it that has been fantastic. One is, well, first of all, there's no Gatorade or anything like that. They just all have water and they do the hydration packs and things like that. They have a team meal at the end of every game, home or away. And it's been fantastic, not only for the men, because they're men now, I can say, young adults, but also for the families, because we're sitting in the stands. We don't know anybody. Our kids didn't grow up together. So socially, I don't really know anybody. And at the end, we all meet and we all eat with our kids. And these are all parents who don't see their kids now. They're away at college, but they come in for a game. It's been wonderful. So we have that meal and there's no dessert. And that's the expectation. There's fruit at the end. So the coach is setting that. The only thing, though, that he lets them have and encourages them to have is chocolate milk. So we have a local creamery here and they'll do the chocolate milk for it. But he has established strict guidelines with his team about food and health. And then we do a lot of the catering, which has been great for them. And then it's same for away games. There's always a meal at the end. So they're fueled up and it's always trying to be a high protein. And then, they get on the bus and they go, but the parents are always there as well. But there's not desserts.
And he's set that. So he's basically said, as a team, we're not going to have desserts. Has he said it's not good for you? It's not necessary. Like, how has he communicated that?
I think it's just not necessary. It's not part of it. You're training. You're in season and you're athletes, and this isn't part, of what they're doing with their training and in their sessions. So he also eats lunch with them in the dining hall every day.
Wow. That's really impressive.
A very, very different vibe. And then Billy plays lacrosse, and it's just different that way. Soccer has 30 players on it. Lacrosse has 60. You can't sit and eat lunch with 60 kids. You know what I mean? Feeding 60 kids. I'll tell you, when we cater it, that's a lot. When you've got hungry athletes coming off the field, that's a lot of food. They don't have the no dessert rule. So it's been very interesting. Like we had all our healthy food, and then at the end, everybody brought, because I feel like it's still the mentality of parents. It is of, I'm going to feed, and how I show I love you is I'm going to bring something sweet.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I don't know how we crack that one, but it is kind of the way it is, I feel like, in a lot of different levels. So we have all our healthy, like scratch-made tacos, nixtamalized maize tortillas, all the things, and then stuff. It's okay.
Yeah.
To each their own.
Well,
but what I also find is a lot of kids don't grab them at all.
Okay.
So they can self-select, right? And when they're that old enough, they don't, it might be out there, but it doesn't mean that they have to take it.
What are you cooking for these athletes, out of curiosity, when you're catering?
So we cater, we do our tacos. So that works really, really well. So we do our nixtamalized maize tacos, and then we'll do al pastor and carne asada and slow roasted chicken. And we'll do a veg. Not many of them are veg. We do have 1 or 2 kids on the soccer team who can have pork. And then we do this green rice and refried beans, Oaxacan string cheese. We make all that from local milk and crema. And we literally got and I'm not kidding you, I have it on video. We got a standing ovation the first time we catered soccer in the fall from them. And they sang this song that they usually sing apparently when somebody gets a goal. I don't know.
Ole,
but it was pretty
ole,
cool.
Ole, ole.
Yeah, it was something like that. They sang about the food. So that's really cool, because I was like, this is what food tastes like. This is real food. Like, yeah, it is. So tacos are a big one. We'll do barbecue, pulled pork. That's always very popular with baked beans. And then he does a gluten-free cornbread, nixtamalized maize in that one. What else is in that? Coleslaw. Of course, coleslaw. I'm like, there's always like 4 things. And then we'll do homemade lasagna. So we make the sourdough noodles and make the cheese and that type of thing. So that's a good one to carb up on. And they're like, oh, this is what it's supposed to taste like. Yeah, this is what real pasta tastes like, made with eggs and cheese, made from local milk. They love our rosemary and olive oil focaccia at the end of a game to carb up. So truthfully, it doesn't matter anymore if we have tacos or not. We bring focaccia. It doesn't go with the theme, but they're eating that too. And then we'll also do sandwiches. So if it's an away game, we can wrap up the sandwiches for them, and sides of fermented carrots and the fermented potato chips and tortilla chips and a side salad. But they're not big side salad people at all. It's really interesting to see. They go for the meat. They go for the steak. They don't get steak in the dining hall too often. So when you've got that sitting there, that's one of the first things that they go for. But it's been rewarding, not only to be there with our son, but then to be able to fuel his teammates.
This is so cool. So when I was in college and the athlete friends that I had would go away, they'd be like, the teams would stop at, whatever the cheapest restaurant was, usually pizza or like McDonald's or something. And they would all just like file in there, take over the restaurant for an hour, and then file back on the tour bus and come home. Yep. Or they would all have the, were those Uncrustables? Those were big. It was like the most processed, ridiculous food. And I wasn't necessarily eating super healthy when I was in college, but I was aware of it. And I just remember being like, you guys are athletes. Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Why are you eating this?
Right.
So it's super cool to hear that you guys are at least working with the college that your son is at. And
it's very impressive. They have a whole handbook put together, the parents of the soccer team, with all the restaurants that are in the area with different meal options. And then for all the away games, they have options at all the away colleges as well too, of where they can pre-order, because that is one thing. It is a cost piece. Two parents split the cost of one of the meals. So that is one thing for us. We are a little more expensive because we're making it all. But truthfully, when we looked at the cost of Chipotle to get a burrito, it's over $15 for a kid. It was at one chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A was $10, and they can't fuel themselves on one chicken sandwich. It's not enough.
That does not fill you up from Chick-fil-A. Chipotle is different, but
so it's just interesting though, when you talk about money and the fast food piece of it, and then we put us on top and we try to give a discount and things. So we're competitive, right, with all of them, and you're getting real food, and you know who made it, and you know where it came from, and you know the farmer and all the pieces. So we also offer a 10% discount to all students from the college. And then if it's game day, they get a 20% discount if they come into the restaurant, which is really cool. So like at the end, spring lacrosse season, we literally, if it was game day, we had both the men and the girls, female teams here, and we were feeding them before they went off, for their matches. So trying to give back and fuel them as best we can.
That's really cool. So you had mentioned earlier about the different experiences between American sports and European sports, or I guess in Ireland where you were at the time. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I would love to, because I would love to see the shift in the States. So like I said, when we were abroad, it was 2017-18, so pre-COVID. And we lived in Ireland for a year. Bill was a visiting professor, and we had this adorable house. It was a cottage on the largest working farm in any European capital city. It was called Airfield Estates. It was in the middle of Dublin. And right outside our door was this huge mall we could walk to, but we literally were on this huge working farm. It was crazy. And the kids all were enrolled in school, full time when we were there. So Brianna and Billy were together at the high school, and just crazy that they got on the Lewis, which was a train, to a bus to walk to school. Like never would happen here in the States. You got to have the yellow school bus, like roll in and pick your kids up. And Alyssa, we would walk her to school. It was about a mile walk. And we would walk her to school. And it was a public school, but it was Catholic, and they wore a uniform. So again, just very different from the States on many levels on that one as well. And all our kids are born in September, and people can laugh, and they're all within 12 days, and they're all 2 years apart, and we're very well planned. So Alyssa is the 11th, Brianna's the 18th, and Billy's the 23rd. So September is a lot of celebrating, and apparently January is a lot of celebrating too in our house, as people joke. So we had just started school. Alyssa's birthday is September 11th, and there was a girl in her class, Katie, and they were birthday twins. And her mother sent me, and you use WhatsApp abroad. You don't use iMessage. Yeah. So she WhatsApps me and says, asked to meet for coffee, which was so nice because I had no friends, right? And we met for coffee, and she's like, I'll be wearing the rose on my lapel. And we met for coffee. It was so funny. And we were there, and she said, Alyssa should come out and play for the team, St. Olaf's. So that was a cool name. Alyssa went to St. Olaf's, and Frozen was out. So that was super cool, being a 10-year-old going to St. Olaf's. And she should come out and play with the girls, camogie and football. Now, football is not American football, nor is it soccer. It's a whole other, it's like soccer meets basketball meets football. It's crazy. A little volleyball, you push the ball this way with your wrist. It's really, really cool, Irish football. So I'm thinking to myself, as I shared earlier, she's not our athletic child. This is not what we want to do, but we all need some friends. And I think one of the best things about sports is the camaraderie that it brings and the teammates and all those types of things. So Alyssa goes out for football practice. So we think football, the Americans that we are, is soccer, of course, because that's how they call it. So she goes out with her soccer ball, and she starts not only using her feet and not her hands. Anyway, the poor girl came off the field later to us and was like, this is not the sport. This is a whole different sport. But what I want to share with everyone is we were Americans there for 1 year. There was no reason that they needed to accept our daughter and have her on a team. It's not like she was rocking in there as the all-star, that she'd been playing this sport for 10 years and was going to, take the team by storm and take them to the championship. She never played it. She had no ideas what the rules were. She wasn't playing any American sports. They accepted her and took her in. It was absolutely amazing. She trained 3 times a week on the pitch, and then we would joke about all the words are very different in Ireland. You would put your in the boot of your car, you would put your cleats and all that kind of stuff. But they accepted her, and not only did she practice, but she played. This is how they did sports. And think about if we did sports this way. You come out and you got 22 kids on your team, and the other team has 16 on their team. Guess what? You give some from your team to their team to make it even, and everyone plays. And you play the whole game. Everybody plays. She played every minute of every game.
Wow.
Every game. It was absolutely amazing. If that was the States here, she would have sat on the bench. Yes, they would have accepted us and probably taken our money and that type of thing, but she would have sat on the bench. Maybe got in if they were up, that type of thing. But that wasn't the focus. The focus was on the skill development, on the community, on, building their confidence, on the social aspect. She played every single minute of every game. And then we went from soccer in the fall, then we went to camogie in the spring, which was the stick. And it was the same girls and the same training. And she played every single minute. And when the girl hit that ball, we were so happy, but it happened only a couple times. And you know what? That's okay. And what's even cooler, we went back the following year to see everybody. Guess who invited her out there to come to practice? She went out there and practiced the next year. Like, I don't know how we can change some of our, I don't know if it's just competitiveness or what, but there needs to be a level of inclusiveness on that. And it really warmed our hearts. The other thing that was very interesting, we learned about sports from the social aspect. You're both running your kids to sports and all the things. Brianna's first field hockey game. And as I said, there was at least 2 field hockey teams, an A and a B, per each grade, not the whole school, for each grade level. So we go out for her freshman field hockey game on Saturday, and we're ready. Like, if I had the chair, I would have brought the chair to sit in, right? Like the Americans, we sit there with our chairs and we're watching our kids. It was us, Bill and I, and one other father. That was it for a field hockey game, not a practice, for a game.
No other parents were there?
No one except one other gentleman, and he was a doctor. And we end up talking to him. It's so funny. He ends up being at this conference that we were presenting at, like, small world. But he shared to us, because I kind of was like, all right, what's going on? Did we do something wrong? Like, are we not supposed to be here? And he explained that Saturdays are for everyone to do what they want. And it might be, as a parent, you might be going for a run. You might be going shopping. But the custom was not to sit and watch your kids play a sport and sit. It was for you to be active and go do something too. And that was like a brain complete shift. Like, what? Like, no, our kids have a game. Like, gosh, you even miss a practice. I can remember the kids would practice when we weren't coaching, and we would run around the practice. And I can remember getting looks from parents like, you're not watching your kids practice? No, I'm running. Like, I need to do something too for myself. Like, and this is the only time I have carved out to actually do something for myself. That was very eye-opening about Saturdays are for you too. I know, like, just pause on that one and think about that for a second, right? When we have the line of parents that are sitting there ready with their snacks, ready to go. But if they were in a league playing a sport or running or just doing something enjoyable, I thought that was very interesting from a parental perspective. And you didn't go to away games. You did not travel. The kids got on a bus and they went to the games. You did not go. Again.
That's so interesting, particularly from the standpoint of Americans are said to be very independent. You know, like we love being independent, but then we are absolutely hell-bent on being at every single game and sitting in the car at practice or whatever. And that's really interesting.
Isn't it?
Helicopter parenting.
Billy was 12, and I forget what it's called. There's a word for it. But he went away with his team for the weekend. They had something, I can't remember the word, what it was called, but they went to another school location and they stayed where other schools came in. But at 12, sending your kid, no parents went. It was just the coaches on a bus, and off they went. Brianna did it as 2, but she was a little bit older. You know, it was different. So that was interesting. And then getting to the food piece, good or bad. So St. Olaf's, it's a club. So they have their fields, their pitches, they have a school, and you're part of this. And there was a clubhouse, and there was the gymnasium and everything. But of course, it was Ireland. There's a pub upstairs. So after practice, there's no after game anything. Everybody goes up to the pub. All the parents, all the kids. It was great. Like, we have our best friends. Truly. It's very, I'm actually going to like fill up even thinking about it. Some of our best friends from Ireland are a result of Alyssa playing sports. And I never, ever would have imagined that ever in my life, because she was not our athlete. I did not think that she would bring us together. But because of that one mother, Dee, who with her rose lapel on, you know, to meet her, and she invited Alyssa to come out and play these sports, it transformed our year. We have lifelong friendships, and it's really opened up our eyes to a lot of things, and lots of Guinness in that pub we may have had with St. Olaf parents, which is very fun. So it was a different Gatorade.
A different Gatorade.
Different Gatorade.
That's funny.
Yep.
I love that though. Oh my gosh.
Parents Gatorade.
Yeah. I mean, I love how everybody played. I love how they split the teams and they would cross them and they would all play.
So you don't have parents on the sidelines then, like coaching from the sidelines and being
No. You have the coach.
Yeah, wow. That is the parents coaching from the sidelines is the worst thing about American children's sports, in my opinion. I hate it so much.
There is none of that. No, there wasn't any of that. And actually the coaches, now that I think about it, so Alyssa, again, into her senior year, these girls are still playing. And one of the coaches, he's still coaching them at that club level. And then it's interesting because then they get into where you could play for your county. And that's kind of like minor leagues, I guess you would say, type thing. But you can do that actually as young. But we really learned a lot that year about the organization of sports and how to include everyone and also parents afterwards, Again, it's like as much as we have that meal afterwards now with college soccer, having that time afterwards, having a pint with the parents was really nice and deepened those relationships. And I feel like other times in sports, you collect your kid at the end and then you're off to the next thing. And you don't necessarily have time to talk and things like that. So it was a good one. I wish we could replicate it, elements of it.
That's an interesting idea. The difference between the American and the Irish way, and how you just said you collect your kids at the end and you just leave. And oftentimes it's because you've got another kid who has another sport.
Yep. You're going to the next
something
one.
like that. So why do you think it worked in Ireland? Like if you're a parent with multiple kids and they're all doing multiple sports, how are you managing that?
They walked. They took public transportation. That was a big one too. You weren't driving them. So I know Billy would walk to the soccer pitch under the lights in the rain. He would walk or take the Lewis, the train. Most of the time we would walk with him and then Bill and I would go run or something. We used that as time just to make sure he got there. And then, we would go run. But they were independent. I think that's a big one for us in the States is we don't have the transportation infrastructure to get our kids to those places. They have to rely on us to get there. I mean, even biking lanes, if you're close enough for them to even bike, is it safe? Like, is there a shoulder? I mean, for us, it's not for most of the locations. So I do think that has a big one to do with it is the transportation piece. As much as we'd like them to be more independent, they're kind of
really
stuck.
Possible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I forgot about that.
Unfortunately. Then you realize that when they can drive, that's a weird thing too. Then all of a sudden you're like, but I'm not driving them to all their practices and doing all the things. It's bittersweet.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about burnout. I want to talk about either parental burnout or student or young athlete burnout.
Yeah.
So
however
Billy
you
had
want to take it.
So we have that both ways. Billy had complete burnout with soccer. I mean, his goal from 3, he went to play Division I, all the things. And he was working very hard to do that. I will say COVID happened in the middle of it. And that just, again, threw a loop for everybody, right? So it was his 8th grade year was 2020 for him. So going into his sophomore year, we were still locked down. Going into his freshman year, we were still locked down. But they were having a season. So he made soccer. He was starting the whole 9 yards. But it was COVID and that was all weird. And he got hurt. He hurt his hip. And unfortunately, it was tough with an injury. I think it was also a growth kind of injury too, because he was growing so quickly and then he was playing so much. It was an overuse and a growth type injury. But he started to get burnout because he was also doing travel. He also had some conflicts with his coach and he wasn't feeling the love in high school. So he's like, I'm just not going to play high school and I'll just play travel. I was like, that's not the best move either, honey. So we talked about that. And then as I shared, travel was so far. And it was just a huge strain time-wise on everyone. So he really pulled back on everything and the college thing kind of dissipated. And then we had to talk about other things. So, all right, if you're not playing, and of course, you're not just going to college to play sports, but if you're not playing soccer, what else is going on? In the meantime, he picked up a lacrosse stick. The kid had never played lacrosse before. and he made varsity his freshman year or sophomore year after COVID. And he's just an athlete. Like he can move. So then he liked lacrosse and he was like, oh, maybe I'll play lacrosse in college type thing. So he went in that direction. And it wasn't so he was totally burnt out. He was done. The spark was gone, which was a shame because he had invested so much. We had invested so much in time as parents. I don't want to say slightly disappointed, but we were, because I knew he had the potential to play. And I also knew it would be very good for him in college. He needed the structure. Just going open-ended classes without a practice schedule was not something I was thinking would be the best option for him. And then it was after his senior year ended for soccer, and he made like first team and like all the things, like he had all the accolades, and then everybody's like, oh, where are you playing? And he realized, oh, I stopped that whole recruitment process. Like, well, maybe I want to play in college. So we literally picked up college recruiting after his senior year was over, which is not the best choice at all.
Wow.
At all. So his options were limited because most people had already started filling their rosters by then. But he got some offers and landed in a very, very good place. And one of the things was, truthfully, about food and the coach and the character. The fact that he was sitting there and taking the time to not just teach them as soccer players, but as young men. And because we feel very strongly, especially Bill, wrestling Division I, he knows how influential that coach can be and how important. And he has some crushing stories about how his coaches treated him at the collegiate level. And he just knew the best person to put in front of Billy is it's got to be a great coach, because that person has such influence over our kid for 4 years in so many different ways. And then he had a good lacrosse season senior year too. So the lacrosse coach heard about him. And then next thing we know, he's a dual sport athlete in college. And our next 4 years are all scheduled out. So between catering and watching him, we will see him in every, single way. But that was a big one. And it was because he just had enough. And I hear that so much. A kid that he had played soccer with, who was like the player all the years, didn't play in college. And that was his aspiration. That was the family's aspiration. Like, how could he not play? Like, he was so talented. But again, it was burnout. And I think one part of it is you can play these sports year round. That makes it very difficult because there's never a break. And I think if he picked up the lacrosse stick earlier in middle school, that really would have helped, instead of playing spring and winter soccer, because then soccer becomes futsal in the winter where they work on their foot skills, and then it's outdoor in the spring, and then you're playing competitive tournaments. You literally don't have time for your body to rest, your mind to rest, and that's not healthy. So I feel like the more you can encourage your children to play multiple sports, because it just feeds each other, right? You're just working on your cardiovascular and your strength and all your hand-eye coordination, all the things. You're just going to get stronger in the other sport. But I really feel like he's a model for that one, because he played it year round, and that was his own decision. That was not something that we pushed as parents. We supported him and we drove him, because that was part of it too, right? I think if he had diversified earlier, then he would have been stronger at the end.
I find this so interesting because I have said this so many times, and from people who are mega sports people, this seems to be almost sacrilegious, right? Where if you are a sports family, right? Like we're not a sports family. If you like to do it, we'll drive you there, but I'm not doing it more than like once or twice a week. But for like people who are like, we're going to do this, my kid's going to play all the things, even if the kid is driving it, it's like, we're going to do, like you said, like soccer is in the spring, and then we're also going to do it in the fall, and then we're also going to do it in the winter, and then we're going to do inside thing, and we're going to do coaching on this day because you don't have practice. So we're going to like hire a special coach to work on foot patterns or whatever. Because like, this is how my kid's going to get through college, or like whatever the motivation is, which I'm sure it's good. I see this happen with my friends' kids, or I've seen it happen with my kids, my friends growing up. Like they get to the point where they're like, I hate this now, or I'm doing this so much, and I'm using the exact same muscles and the exact same ligaments and stuff, doing the exact same moves because I'm doing the exact same sport all the time, that you just burn out whatever that muscle group is, or that your knee, or whatever. But then the other flip side of that is like the way that our society has set up sports is like, if you don't start when you're 3 years old and pick a sport and stick to it and do it every day for forever, you're never going to get to a higher level. You're never going to get that college scholarship. Like, how do we balance this with our kids, especially when, our kids are they are also thinking, well, this is my favorite thing. I just want to do this all the time. How do we help them kind of diversify?
That's a very good question. So I think one is exposing them to as much as you possibly can. And I think school does a nice job in PE with that because they'll try a lot of different sports at different times. And if there's different parks and rec or camps that they can try, I think that's a great one. I know for Billy, his injury was repetition. It was his right hip from kicking the ball so much. I mean, it makes complete sense, right? Like that's all you're doing. You're pulling your hip back all the way and swinging as hard as you can. So he saw that completely at a young age in high school, which was a problem. I wish we knew or we counseled him more on diversifying in the spring. But again, what the message that he was getting was, if I don't do this year round, if I don't have coaches see me, if I'm not on the travel team, if I'm not at that tournament, I'm not going to be seen. I'm not going to be looked at. I'm going to be passed over.
How do we fix that?
Because you know what's crazy now too about these travel tournaments? Because he went to one when he decided then. So now we're in senior year. It's like, okay, how do we get him in front of coaches? I'm so embarrassed to even say this out loud. We went to freaking Disney World, okay, for a dang soccer tournament over Christmas, which was a complete racket because you have to stay in a Disney hotel. Even though we have family in Orlando, to be in the tournament, you have to have the hotel and all the things. And so he was seen by a lot of coaches. But guess what? All the coaches were online. Everything was Zoomed. So all they were watching was the feed. There was only a handful of coaches that were actually there. It was just very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. But he got some looks out of it and he got some visits to colleges out of it afterwards. But again, then we started playing the game. And that is really frustrating because it's a game on that end too. I could take Billy's lacrosse and my husband's wrestling. Bill wrestled, and he won't talk about it, but he wrestled Division I Ohio State. They were national champs.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. It was a really, really big deal. He didn't start wrestling till his freshman year in high school. Now, it's a different time than the 90s. They weren't wrestling per se at 5, but he was an athlete. He was lifting. He was playing football. He was doing the other things. And he'll tell you the whole story that he was very overweight in middle school. And it wasn't until he started to get in the gym and play football that he got his physique. So it wasn't like he was this crazy athlete the whole time growing up at all. I mean, he wasn't. But he picked up a sport he loved. He trained. He was really devoted to it in high school and got a Division I scholarship, which is amazing. Billy with lacrosse, he was just an athlete. He was training, he was lifting, he was working out other elements of his body, picked up a stick, trained with friends, and then is playing it now in college. I mean, it's not your typical path, but it's a possible path. And I think that cross training, it's the same for us. If we're doing the same thing, we have to work out the different elements of our body. And also it gets boring for them too. So that's another piece.
I hear you say that, you've mentioned this a few times, just really letting them try a whole bunch of different sports and experience everything. So that's really sticking with me. And also this idea of maybe it is okay for them to start later. So maybe up until high school, they are just experimenting and figuring out what is kind of their sport, their interest, and then really committing in high school.
I would say one thing, I agree on that, is coordination. So if they're not playing sports, what are they working on to help with the coordination? Because that's a hard one to catch up on. If you hit freshman year and you go out for the football team, okay, if you're a big guy and you can hit people, okay. But if you're wanting to play soccer and you don't have the foot skill or you just don't have that hand-eye coordination, that's going to be very, very difficult. And I think it's good that a lot of our high schools have a freshman, a JV, and a varsity team, but they all don't. Like there's a lot of pressure then that you got to make JV or you got to make varsity because they just can't field the kids. So I think not necessarily pushing sports as much that they have to be on an organized team, but I think pushing something for coordination. Maybe the family's going to the Y and you're going for the walks or the runs together, those types of things, riding a bicycle. I think that's really important because those are tough skills to gain in high school. You might be able to pick up the actual individual skills. Does that make sense? Of an actual sport, but some of those fundamental that go across all the sports. It doesn't matter if you're picking up a basketball or a baseball or a lacrosse stick. You do need some of that coordination.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it also depends on the sport because you can't start synchronized swimming, artistic swimming, whatever you want to call it, in high school. You're not going to get anywhere.
When did you start?
But see, like, this is what I feel like is a social problem. I really do. Like, I feel like it's a societal problem that we are pressuring children to make these choices of, like, you know, pick your sport, stick to it, be hardcore at it at a young age. Even 10 is really young, because I would say the same thing for dancing. Like, you're never, because dancers, and this goes for a lot of sports ball players. But if you're any of those sorts of people, your career, if you were going to take it to a professional level, right, your career starts in your 20s. So if you were to start at 14 or 15, that only gives you 5 years of practice or of training or whatever. That's not a lot of time. I give it to you. I completely understand that. And that there are some things that, like, if you learn how to do it when your body is not mature, then it's going to be easier. However, I really feel like for the betterment of society, it's not good to be pressuring our kids into these long-term obsessions almost. And then it gets to the point where, and I've seen this with friends of mine who are huge sports people in high school and then college, and like, you go so hard and you're playing so hard for your entire life, and then you graduate from college and you're like, now what? Like, what do I do?
Well, maybe if we didn't go to all our kids, but if we didn't go to all our kids' sporting games and practices, we could have adult leagues like they do in Ireland, and then we could be playing those sports. Just think about it.
Right. Yeah. For fun.
For fun.
I mean, there is master swimming. Yeah.
You should go back at it, Christine.
Some of my other friends did that, but I chose not to do that. I'm just doing the deep end fitness thing.
Which is terrifying to me. Do you know what she does, Christina? What? She like puts weights on her body and then sinks down to the bottom of the pool and like works out. And like, I've seen videos of this and I have like heart palpitations from watching the videos. It's so scary.
So much fun. Just hanging out at the bottom of the pool.
For how long?
It's drowning.
Yeah, that's drowning at a whole new level.
Oh my gosh. Like talking about just like, you know, going back to sports that you really enjoy, you know, and the burnout thing, totally had burnout, you know, like I said, didn't set foot in a pool for 10 years. And then I jumped back in that pool, ironically, the same pool I practiced in pretty much my whole career. And it was like my body finally relaxed. It was like, oh, you're back at home again. You know,
really?
Like, yeah, I just sunk underwater and like, you feel like, oh, this feels amazing. Here I am again. I can do this again. It's crazy. I wonder if that's how our kids feel with their sports. You know, like your son, he picks up a lacrosse stick and he's like, oh yeah, I can do this. Or he just, the fact that he always has a soccer ball with him, like there's a comforting thing about that. Yeah, I feel the same way. You put me in a pool and I'm like, yeah, this is my element. I can do this. Like, I feel good.
That's very cool.
So I agree with you, Corey, that especially as Americans, we are obsessed with our sports. I mean, hello, American football is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and these players get paid millions of dollars. Don't even get me started on that. But there's some benefits to it.
I'm not saying there's not benefits. You know, I just think that
it's a tricky thing. It's tricky. Mm-hmm. Like how do you navigate that? And I think every family. What?
Some of the kids' best friends have come from sports, and that's really important.
Same.
It's a built-in social group. And that's actually something that we've talked about because Alyssa doesn't have the close network that the other two do have. And we talked about it. A big piece of that is sports because you have an immediate group that you can count on, that you're there for each other. I mean, especially if the coach really leads the right way, right? In terms of everybody be accepted. And, Billy starting college, he went in with a pre-made group set of friends, like ready to go, was accepted and was confident. And that's huge. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of sports.
There's bonding that happens in sports that's, I think, probably not the same in other elements of life. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, especially because you don't know the outcome. Like if you're in theater, there's definitely bonding there and all the things. I get it. You know what the final product's going to be. You're not going necessarily through those ups and downs. I feel like that's different with sports because you never know at the end of that game what might happen, and it stretches people. It stretches their empathy a little bit more. You might disagree with me on that one, Corey, being from the theater background, but I just think like never knowing, like you don't know what the outcome's going to be, and that makes people be hopefully a little more sensitive. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're wrapping up, but what other things do you feel like need to be said, Christina? Oh, do you have something else you wanted to ask?
I think this is a good final question. Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Do you think it has been worth raising your kids on an ancestral diet long term?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very good question because now I feel like I can say that as they are all young adults. And now I can see the impact on them, and I can see that they make educated decisions based on it. Literally wherever we are in the world. We just got back from Brazil. And even in that culture, being able to make decisions and comparing it differently, knowing how they feel after they eat different things, it's been absolutely worth it. Has it been easy? Not all the time at all. Yeah. But I wouldn't trade it. I do feel, and I would be remiss if I didn't say something, socially it's impacted us because people don't necessarily understand. I feel like now is a better time, or a more acceptable time. When our kids were little, so we've been married 25 years, Brandon is 21, so go back 15 years to trying to do this. It was more the Pinterest generation, and I was a sucker to it, to see the like snacks that you would bring to the Halloween party or the Christmas party or the, the spring thing. And it was that type of two working parents, the busy, and what were you going to put together? That was pretty. It wasn't, at least the circle that we were in. Does that make sense? It was more on that kind of piece than the health and nutrition. And we were an outlier doing things differently. And it made it difficult for Bill and I, friend-wise, and because people wouldn't invite us for dinner or still don't invite us for dinner because they're like, what are we going to cook? Like, we didn't make the cheese. Is that okay? We bought the cheese. Yes, we don't care. It's food. Yes, we're just so thankful to share amongst a table. And, for the kids, there was a little bit of that pressure as well, too. But seeing them make good decisions, and they really do make good decisions now, which is exciting to see. It'll be interesting to see the next generation, which hopefully won't be for a while, a very long time. Yeah. But, to see I think that's when we'll know if we succeeded or not. How do they raise their kids? Because that's the telltale sign, right? Like, what do they take from what we did as a family and what do they instill in their own families down the road? I think that's a big one. So hopefully not for a long time will I be able to talk to you about that one.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I love that. That's encouragement for all you mamas out there who are not sure if you're on the right path. Just keep plugging away.
And I would also say I was on the bandwagon too in the early days of Seinfeld. What was his wife, or is his wife's name? You know what book I'm talking about? It's pinkish.
Sneaky,
and it was about
delicious.
hiding everything in your kids' food.
Oh, yeah.
It was, blending up the spinach in this and doing this so they don't know what's in it. And I was all on that bandwagon. Absolutely. Yeah. And then it was like, no, they need to know what they're eating. That's the whole point of when we talk about reading labels, to know what's in your food. So we made a very conscious effort to not hide things. And I will say there's some organ meat and some things. And I just tell Bill, like, just don't tell me, just because I am still a recovering vegetarian. Just don't tell me. I just want to eat it. But I think that too has been something that's been important to teach kids what's in their food. In both directions, right? From an ancestral standpoint, as well as from a processed food standpoint. And that has been helpful for the kids to be able to make some informed decisions that way too.
Yeah, I love that.
Same.
Totally. Okay. Anything else you feel like people need to know on this topic of raising healthy athletes, what are we calling this? Whatever.
No. Yeah.
I think one is bring your own snacks. Just have them ready for the kids. Have them in the car. Give them an out. Figure out as a family what is your kind of safe word, that your kids can say something that you can help them get out of a situation if they feel uncomfortable. And I know that sounds really weird around food, but it's very true. If they feel inundated because at the end of the game, they know that all the snack packs are coming out and they don't know what to do. Sometimes it's, hey, we got to get to your brother's game, and you have to scoop them up really quick so they're not even in that environment. And we had a lot of talks with the kids about that because they didn't want to have to navigate it. It was just too much stress after a stressful game. Because let's be honest, it's stressful when you're out there on that field, whether you know what you're doing or not. And then you're stuck with looking at things that you know you're not supposed to eat or you shouldn't eat, but your friends are eating it. So how do I get out of here and I don't look like nerdy or whatever? We would sometimes come up with some strategies beforehand to make sure that the situation was set up successfully. So whether there was a dairy issue, or gluten, or we just had to get somewhere else, or we had a snack ready to go that all of a sudden was in their hand and it looked like the other snacks, but they were eating their own, we just made sure that we put some of those pieces in place. And it takes a little planning in advance, but I actually think it can really deepen your relationship with your kid because you're showing your vulnerability and realizing what they're going through, because it doesn't matter if they're 5 or 10 or 15, or our ages, everybody gets that feeling sometimes. So it's nice to be able to kind of role play the strategies of how to politely say no, thank you, and replace it with something else. And then from a sports perspective, if anybody could share kids across teams and let everybody play every minute of every game, that would be, I think, the ideal Parks and Rec model. By far. I wish that was the rec model anymore. And then travel can be you're on your own team. But man, that was such a magical year. And the growth that we saw in our child in that year, and then the stifling when we came back, it was really black and white. I wish we could. So if there's any coaches out there who could work in their town leagues and be able to do something like that, it was really very, very powerful. Follow your kids' lead. Think about letting them play different sports in those off seasons and not take an off season to just be a travel version or an inside version or a turf version of the same sport. Because take it for us from an injury perspective and a burnout from a kid who wanted to play Division I. He's playing Division III now, which is fine and he's happy, but it wasn't what he set out to do. And I think if he wasn't year round, it would be a different story for him.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Totally.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Can you tell listeners where they can find you?
Yes. So they can find Bill and I at modernstonage.com. Our Instagram is The Modern Stone Age, and Bill is at Dr. Bill Schindler. You can come visit us in Chestertown, Maryland. We have the Modern Stone Age Kitchen, a full scratch-made ancestral restaurant. We're open 7 days a week. So we have a lot of people right now traveling in, a lot of people coming, and it's really cool. Oh, we're going to the beach and we've been listening to you or we've been following. So we came to see you. People, the beach is 1.5 hours to 2 hours away. It's not on the way to the beach. So when they're like, oh yeah, we're going to the beach and we're stopping. I'm like, wow, thanks. Because that is a heck of a long way out of your way. But they're coming in and they're eating and then they're taking all their groceries to the beach, which is really, really cool. And we also have a B&B. So we have the sanctuary. So if you'd like to come in and see us on the Eastern Shore, we're about 1 hour and 15 from Philly and DC. We have apartment that's available as well on the website there that you can rent and then take classes. And we do a lot of classes as well for all your listeners. So, and we'll be launching our own podcast soon too. So I'm kind of in the pseudo studio here, Modern Stone Age. There we go. We're getting there. And that one will be out soon. So Bill and I will be talking about all these fun things. But
I was about to say, yeah, what are you guys going to talk about on your podcast?
So a lot of it will be about raising the kids and the things that we've learned. Cause I feel like now we're on the other side of it, right? We could talk about the things that we've done, what worked, what didn't work, starting a business, doing this. So it's one thing to do it as a family. Now we're feeding the community. Now we employ over 30 people. Yeah. And we're not business people. So this has been in the last 4 years. So what that tells me, and hopefully tells your audience too, is there's a need for real food, authentic food that people know the ingredients in. And so hopefully we'll be expanding into an area by you if all goes well. We'll see. Oh, yes. But yeah, so we'll be talking about lots of things, and we've learned a lot along the way.
Awesome.
I love that. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and just sitting down and chatting with us. It's such a pleasure to talk to either you or Bill. So we really
Thank you
appreciate
very much. And thank you for having us on to share. Hopefully there's a couple nuggets throughout today that maybe, that resonate with your listeners and that help them make some reinform the decisions that they're making, or maybe have them think about things a little bit differently. And it's possible. It's definitely possible. But I do think, again, just to reiterate, it's back to the coach. So that's a big one. So if you want to make change, coach your kids. You know what I mean? Like, get out there. It doesn't matter if you weren't a professional soccer player or a football player, get out there and coach because you set the tone. So, that's a huge one too. Get involved that way as well. And then you get the exercise in too, which is always nice. So yeah, thank you ladies for having me on.
Thank you, Christina. All right, everybody. You can find Christine over at Nourish the Littles. You can find me at For Nutrients' Sake. You can find the show on YouTube now, so you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. You can write questions in the comments under the YouTube, and Christine and I will get in there and answer those as best we can. So that's all at Modern Ancestral Mamas. The Instagram is the same thing, Modern Ancestral Mamas. And that's it. That's all we have. So thank you so much. We love you guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.